Today's guest is a proud mom who is raising a child while also running an AI based startup. Meet Aaksha Meghawat from the Silicon Valley, a natural language processing or an NLP expert who has spent over a decade with artificial intelligence and machine learning. She has done award winning research at the Carnegie Mellon University, shipped voice tech to a billion iPhones at Apple, and also most recently led an AI product at MoveWorks, which was acquired for $3 billion. Now, as the founder of Kashikoi, a Y Combinator backed startup, she's on a mission to build tech that is not only cutting edge, but also safe, unbiased. But what grounds Aksha most? Her journey in the motherhood and as a parent who is also navigating big ideas while raising a little human at home. So we're excited to talk to her today. Thank you so much, Aksha, for coming on the Parenting Reboot, where we ask everything related to parenting and technology. And who better than a tech leader in the AI space yourself? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that very nice introduction. And yeah, thank you for putting this together. I think there's, as we've spoken about before, there's so many things about motherhood that needs to be talked about. So thank you for the opportunity to actually voice some of that and fix the gaps in the conversations. Yeah.
You're a mother now. Tell us all about your journey into motherhood. How old is your little one, and how has that journey been so far?
Yeah, my son is 3 years old now. So yeah, it's been 3 years since that, and while I was navigating motherhood, of course, there was a lot happening in my professional journey as well. So yeah, I think it's been extremely challenging, I would say. But at the same time, I think I've unlocked. I mean, as you have to adapt. So I think every mom goes through this. You sort of realize that you're in charge of a human being, that like on a given any given day, like even if the world is having its best time, like that's a crazy thing to like have on your plate, and then you sort of also have to adapt to the world around you. And yeah, I think every mom unlocks new levels of uh, strength and resilience. So yeah, I think in a nutshell, that is what it has been so far.
So, where does the intersection or that intertwinement happen for you between motherhood and technology? Like, of course, you were probably knee deep into AI and machine learning well before ChatGPT became cool in the world's eyes, right? So, tell us all about your journey in the technology space. What you love about data, what you love about AI.
Yeah, I think, I mean, putting motherhood aside, of course, I really enjoy what I do. So that's one aspect of it. But I think even before I became a mom, I was very conscious about like how my career is going to stack up against being a mom. So I think, it's like I was stressed even about a child, even before having a child. That's like typical like overthinking, over planning. I mean, and it's like I didn't see a way out of it because of over planning or overthinking, because actually our society doesn't really have structural support for moms, and I'm a very privileged person. So now, like, I'm so me saying that, I mean, people should really wake up and like do something about this. Like, even a person like me feels stressed about it. So, long story short, I think, uh, yeah, just being, I mean, even before becoming a mom, I think I was thinking a lot about being a mom. And, there were these conscious or unconscious, like, stresses that I had, like, okay, how am I going to navigate all of this while having a child? So there were definitely decisions I was making even before my son came onto the scene. And I think so. My son and ChatGPT arrived at the same time, pretty much. It's like so I joined this like I joined my last company just a few months before Earth was about to come onto the scene, and so like when I went for my maternity leave and I came back, like ChatGPT was there and like everything had changed at work. Roadmaps had changed. So it was like I was, I was living through a very turbulent time both at work and at home. And the fun thing, which I think people still don't believe me when I say this, but I'm like, I think it was a good thing because I found motherhood to be harder than navigating ChatGPT or the stresses of like what's gonna happen. And I used to go to work like actually a very happy person because I would go to work and I'm like, I've seen 100 problems already since 5 a.m. in the morning. So whatever's gonna happen at work cannot be harder than what I already did at home. And like,
Can we
so
can
I
we
would.
just take a pause to acknowledge and relish in that statement you just said, that nothing can be harder than motherhood, not even ChatGPT or learning how to prompt it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would actually tell like, junior people at work, I would tell them this is not a problem. Like this is not the issue. Like, try taking care of a baby. Like that's hard. That is what hard is in life. So
That's
I think I found like new sources of strength, honestly. I don't, but when I sometimes hesitate saying this because I think saying this a lot makes people feel like that we are doing enough for women. It's I think just relying on women to like make up for the lack of structural support or medical research and all of the things that our society totally fails moms. And I'm using the word fail, so please note
yeah.
that word. Like, it's not like we are failing as moms. I think moms have been doing an incredible job over centuries. It's one of the oldest human activities. It's tragic that it's in such a sad state in the modern world. So just relying on women to like find new sources of strength or resilience, or pay the psychological cost, honestly, of motherhood is, yeah, is despicable. But at the same time, of course, I mean, we all love our children. We want to be do the best for them, for our families. And of course, we pull our socks up and we're like, okay, whatever it is, I have to figure it out. We all do that. So I did find that, but yeah, but it was a very challenging journey. Postpartum was extremely hard for me. So yeah, that I don't, yeah, I mean, I have a lot to say on those things.
So let's
So
let's dissect those parts, right? Like let's talk about postpartum. Let's talk about support systems, and also, did technology enter that space for you, right? Like, for example, social media, parenting apps, and all of those things. Were you reliant on these things? Were they of any help? Like, paint a picture for us on how you were doing postpartum.
yeah, I think so. I think, I mean, on a like just starting from simple stuff, the thing that the I think our generation needs to sort of like, verbalize this. I think I heard a nice word for it, but it's called computational cost in, like, on your brain. It's like when you just like search what stroller should I get, you get like, 10 options. There are like Reddit threads with like 50, like just crazy unending things. So just on what stroller to buy. I mean, that's already pretty hard, especially when you're sleep deprived. You have limited hours in the day, and you're all obviously like also going to work and trying to figure out 100 things. So there's that. On a lighter note, that's, I think, a new thing for our generation. Like my parents or our parents, they don't get that. Like,
Didn't have to,
why?
yeah.
Yeah, they didn't know about 10 options. They were like, there's one stroller available in the store that I go to every day, so I'm gonna get that and that's it. But for us, that's not. It's a paradox of choice situation. That's a lighter note. I think uh, the way I would like to say is that I think there are fundamental issues. I think there's a lot of research that's missing from medical research, I mean, on like, motherhood. And now we're all looking for it. And this information does not exist anywhere. So I think the whole conversation or the whole discourse on the internet is somehow trying to make up for that gap in not so healthy ways. And I think that is what's, I think that's how I would summarize it. There's so many symptoms, so many people go through so many different experiences, but at the same time, it's not like it can't be handled if as society, like, we paid enough attention to moms and like invested in finding out good solutions for them, medically, psychologically. I think we would not have to want social media to fix that gap. And we wouldn't search online for so many things all the time if there were good guidelines, if there were good playbooks that a new mom could actually follow. So I think it's a symptom of that missing information. Yeah, and I think we're all trying to find some solace in like social media, which of course never works. Like, social media cannot fix fundamental problems in society. In fact, it only pretty much makes them worse. So yeah, I think that's the larger view that I feel. And yeah, I mean, I personally, I obviously like, I mean, social media, I think again, it's like when I was having difficulty in my postpartum, I think I made it a point to like call every aunt, every like, well-wisher I knew who's been a mom, and they, like of previous generation. And I would tell them about my problems. And the interesting thing that I found when I spoke to these people was that some of them actually completed my sentences. So, so it was very weird because a lot of them were like, Aaksha, this is what happens, but it will go away. So, so it was like they were confirming the problem, but they were saying like, be okay with it, because I think that's how they were, that's how, that's the only option they had. And so like there are a lot of times I think people will like, it's at least in postpartum, it's I think at its peak. Pregnancy, it's a little okay, but it reaches its peak in postpartum where people are like, just it'll pass, like I don't want to hear this messy thing you're going through, this messy emotional state you are in, or whatever physical state you are in. Like, it's all just going to go away. So just wait it out. I think the medical system has that, kind of deals with moms like that. The social system deals with moms like that. That's generally what I felt. And so I started like doing my own research. Basically, I would like call every aunt and be like, what was your postpartum like? Like, I was just amazed that I'm finding out about like these 100 things while I'm in it. And I'm like, this is like, if it was anything, I mean, if it was any activity that like, was economically important, there would be like 100 playbooks. There would be like so much so much like literature on like what should be done, what worked, what didn't work. I think that's just missing for moms. And so I started talking to people who've done it before, and yeah, like the problems were not, it was not like the problems are new. I've even heard like some OB-GYNs actually tell me that you are seeing this problem because of your modern lifestyle. Like, and so they actually dismissed or trivialized or invalidated my problem. And I was like, that's not true. I mean, I have spoken to like people of, previous, like my mom's generation. They all saw these things. It's not new. It's not a modern thing. It's because like the medical community doesn't, or whatever, like we just don't have the political will to invest in these problems and find solutions for them, which is why we just want women to think like, it's not important, it's going to go away. And either ways, like, you find out a way to be strong about it and like move on. So I think so there is a big gap. And it's very funny because like now I've been through Y Combinator, and like, of course, I've been reading about, I mean, startup, like founding is like equally hard. It's equally
you're giving
like,
birth to a baby because
yeah,
you're founding your own baby, right?
Yeah, it's visceral, it's survivalistic, it's super hard, your odds are so low, like everything. I mean, I just see so many parallels, but like in this, like I mean, there's so much support for starting up, or rather, I wouldn't call it support, but there's so much literature, there's so much understanding. If you were wanting to educate yourself about like this world. You can do that on the internet today, but I don't think you can do that in a healthy manner for motherhood. And I'm like, this is completely flipped. Like, motherhood is one of the oldest things that happen. It's probably one of the most, like, the highest leverage activity. Like, what else is there for human race than ensuring survival? Like, that's so it's so fundamentally important. And we just don't have the playbooks. We just don't have enough guidance. We don't have enough importance for it. So I mean, I think it's tragic, honestly. Like, I really don't want to trivialize it. I mean, I think the whole AI, social media, I think that's just a symptom of people, trying to find a modern solution to a structurally missing piece. And yeah, that's I don't think that's going to go very well unless we invest in those fundamental, like, in fundamental research and answering these questions in a healthy, like, putting in the research, basically. That's yeah.
It's very interesting because like I've been speaking with so many different mothers and parents about their, new parenthood journey. And I went through postpartum recently as well, and I felt like everything you were saying exactly in my skin. I went through similar things. I felt and I also come from a very privileged space. I had both my parents and in-laws come and help me out
Yeah.
in the year one. You have all the supports, yet you feel so alone because your entire recovery, both physical and mental, is all on you.
Yeah.
While you have to show up every morning,
Yeah.
look great according to social
Yeah.
media standards, feel productive because productivity is also a part of motherhood because you
Yes.
live in such a
Yeah.
capitalistic society that you're
Yes.
driven by this
Yeah.
productivity models in your head.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
how many hours are you sleeping? How many hours are you working on nutrition? Oh, there is a calorie count on your nutrition now, postpartum as well, right? So
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
are so many different areas. And what interestingly, a couple of viewpoints that I heard from some of these parents was, yes, of course, literature is missing, which is like, but also there is so much diverse literature out there which is scattered across the world of internet and social media that makes you believe in misinformation to a certain degree, and that pushes you in directions that you don't want to, and then they capitalize, or rather the industry capitalizes on your issues, like or the problem you're
Yeah.
facing at home, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
not able to put your child to sleep. Here's the whole sleep
Yeah.
module. You have to
Yeah.
go through
Yeah.
all of these things, etc. Pay this much dollars.
Yeah.
And then when I also spoke to my parents, grandparents, and aunts, they always refer to this village that raises your child, right? Like in the early stages, there used to be like a village around your child. You had support systems. You could give your child over to the neighbor and walk
Yeah.
out and do
Yeah.
such things. But, what is the solution in the modern day world for that, right? Where you live in nuclear families, where your continents across from grandparents and things like that. Do you think like technology, but in specific AI, can fix that issue at a fundamental level? Do you see hope for that?
Again, I would actually, to that village point, first of all, I think, yeah, like, I think the structural issue is that the labor of motherhood or raising a child doesn't count in GDP. No amount of technology or AI, like, our parents' generation had a village. We don't. There's a reason for that. It's because the people who were running the village never got counted. Our mom's labors for raising us, for putting in all the work they did, never got accounted for in society. So obviously we are not blind, right? We are moms who saw that. I mean, like, we were young girls who saw that, and we're like, okay. So my mom is doing such fantastic work with me every day, and like, society does not give a damn about that. So is that how I want to live my life? That's why the village is missing. Now, no amount of technology. I don't. So there's that really big structural problem of like not accounting for child raising in GDP, which is just stunning. Like, if you can account for military in GDP, I think you can account for motherhood at the very bare minimum. Like, because countries, or like, at geopolitical level, who benefits the most from having stable, psychologically stable human beings? It's the country, or like, it's that large group of people. Like, you and I probably won't, like, we don't know how, if our children are gonna like support us, or like or for that matter, how much we are supporting or giving back to the people who helped raising us. That's an open question. So I don't think that it's even us. It's who is benefiting from us being, somewhat productive individuals is society. Like, it's the countries that we live in. And so I think, yeah, I've always had this. I mean, yeah, I think people should start talking about motherhood as important as military. Like, that is how important it is to the future of any like significant group. And the reason why village that everybody talks about is missing, because yeah, over time, if you don't nurture a system, or if you don't set up the right incentives in society, of course it will die out, right? Like, the fact of the matter is that we don't parenthood the labor of parenthood is just not important. It's not counted. So why should people keep doing it? I mean, it's logical. I think today's generation's reaction to that is,
It's
I
very
think it's a
logical.
logic.
That's true.
Yeah,
It's not just that I mean, there is to a certain degree the fear itself of becoming a parent
yeah,
and the burden that comes with it, the economic
yeah,
burden, the
yeah,
financial ones. But recently we're seeing in news, several countries trying to incentivize childbirth, right? Like
yeah,
paying the extra income, or $1,000 extra if you reproduce a third child, and things like that, because I think countries are beginning to realize that there is a flat line happening
yeah,
in their demographies, right? Aging demographies is a problem. And you put it so well that it's motherhood is not counted in GDP. It's an unseen labor, because caregiving is not, you can't monetize. I mean, caregiving as a sector exists with,
yeah,
daycares and things like that, but like the it's not counted as work when your own mother does it or when your own family
yeah,
does it, but it is the
yeah,
unseen labor in that
yeah.
sense. Um,
Yeah, and to
Sorry.
that point of yours where you said that, how can we monetize it? I think I've kind of heard echoes of this rebuttal to like what I just said. And I always would like to answer that, like, do you want to monetize your military? Like, if you find that absurd, then because that's the kind of societal support that we need to give motherhood as well. I mean, so
Families
yeah,
also, right? Like if you
yeah,
place the right incentives of for forming families, for
yeah,
nurturing
yeah,
family-based values, and you want to,
absolutely, yeah,
like you hear like polarized arguments from both sides, like, you know, the left and the right talking about we're straying away from family values, etc., etc. But
yeah.
at the fundamental core of it, you don't want to put in probably your dollars
Yeah,
into
yeah,
fixing that
exactly.
structure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the whole family values, so-called, was they people were relying on one part of society to like, to pay the cost for maintaining family values, and it doesn't work that way. It's never like that's one day that part of society will be like, well, it can't be a one-way street, like,
Yep,
So
that's right.
I think I think that's I mean, I don't think AI or technology can really fix these social problems. I think it's just going to highlight them. Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I would say that people should actually moms. I mean, I've heard a lot when I was going through a difficult time, like not luckily not from my own support system. I think they were very understanding of, and they to the extent that they allowed me to be angry. I think that was important for my own journey as a mom to like, not invalidate my problems. Like it wasn't like, you're feeling this because your hormonal levels are off. That was never the case. I never heard that. And I think that's like the highest privilege a mom can have, that the support system really believes so much in you that they are like, yeah, we're gonna get there, we will provide, like, we'll be there for you, and it's okay to like figure out your understanding of the situation. So yeah, I think but I do think that as moms, we need to be more like own up to our stories more of like how hard it was, because I think we need to sort of build that political will to, like have society invest in these problems, put in the research for like menstruation, pregnancy, postpartum. I think there's a lot of fundamental research missing because, yeah, because the political, yeah, I think there needs to be political will that needs to kind of, people need to wake up and realize that. And I think step one to that is for people to like sort of own up to how hard it is. Maybe like not on social media, I don't care. It is a wheel that moves things forward in society, but at least in personal conversations. I think it's not even there in personal conversations that, that level of like sharing and sort of building knowledge for tackling hard things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go off the lip here and say it's
Yeah.
far more on social media than it is in real life because, like, let's face it, none of us had any idea what postpartum really is until it
Yeah.
hits you because nobody wants to
Yes.
tell you or spill the
Yeah.
beans on how
Exactly.
how hard it truly is because it's going to disincentivize a lot of people from even attempting to probably bring children into this world, right? Which is a very surface level argument, but that doesn't mean you
Yeah.
don't educate.
Yeah.
We become adults. We go through rigorous training, courses, PhDs, graduation to be able to even do a job or be qualified to do any job. And the highest form of
Yeah.
job is keeping a human being alive. And you're not
Yeah.
putting in as many number of
Yeah.
hours or effort
Yeah.
into, filling that space with the right kind of research and tools for mothers and parents in general, right?
Yeah.
So, Aksha, I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
we spoke a lot about motherhood, we spoke about postpartum, but I want to pivot here and talk a bit about how life has been right now, like raising a toddler at home while also being knee deep in your startup, right? It's all exciting stuff happening at home, but also outside of home. So tell me how life has been right now. How's Arth doing? Do you do technology with him at home, screen time, and stuff like that?
Uh, yeah, I think there's two parts that I want to go to. So one is the technology part, like how
Yeah.
I think about parenting and technology and how that's gonna work. Yeah, honestly, in the long term, I'm constantly researching for like what's working for like what's working with kids and technology, because the way, I mean, I think the force of social media is too strong. So, as parents, I think we'll have to make the extra effort of fighting it. I don't know, maybe I'm obsessed with this topic, but I've read like, now like lawsuits that parents have filed on social media. Like, how are they fighting this? And my understanding so far is that, yeah, social media giants, they are too big. So, like, and there's nobody putting in the right checks and balances. So I think it's going to come down to at the individual level. I almost think of it as like, fighting plastic or fighting like sugar. Like, there's just this whole capitalist system built around like, just putting more sugar and plastic in the world. Similarly, it's gonna be like social media is gonna, and like I think as like adults, we've all been through that, right? Like I kind of grew up with Facebook, but luckily Facebook was not around when we were getting formed. I think it came when we were in college or something. So, we had our basics set up as
Sorted.
like, basic sorted. So it didn't interfere with that. I think it came once we were sort of set as individuals. So we kind of had a chance to, treat it in a mature way, or at least, if you get like carried away by it, you can come back to like, there's more to life than this. I think that won't be the case for our children, right? They're gonna have it. They see it already, like people sharing pictures. Also it's very digital. We're all living intercontinental, so like we share a lot of pictures back home, and they see that. Like Arth now sees, he knows that I share pictures of his, like with his grandparents. Of course, not on social media. It's all in like private shared albums. So So, but he's aware that, his pictures are being shared, and he likes to pose, and he's like, can you send that picture to Nana or Dada? Like, he's very aware of that thing. So yeah, I think I'm very obsessed with like looking at playbooks for like how parents are dealing with this. Yeah, I think if like this strategy that I have so far is that I think it sounds a little, I think of it as like smoking. That's the framework I'm using. That like and smoking when it was not banned or not demonized, like it is, like we didn't have frameworks, there were no laws. We are at that point in
Of the
terms of
social
social media,
media.
and
Yeah.
and so it's like, because I've even heard these debates where people are like, oh, if your kid is not on social media, they'll miss out on like school stuff, because a lot of friends are on social media, and it's the same. I think these were similar arguments that people used to make in the past for smoking, like if you don't smoke, you'll miss out on office gossip, or like you won't be part of the community
The
where people
school
hang
group.
out. Yeah. So I think it's that. So the framework I'm trying to use is the same one, where like I'm like, it's okay, he can not be part of what the hottest thing, or like it's okay if he misses out on a few people or knowing them, because he won't be that active digitally. But I think I'm very clear that it's only once he is set as a person, then he can take his own call on how he wants to do this. But yeah, so I think I would be pretty conservative in terms of like introducing, in terms of how I think his screen time or any of his digital interactions work. Because yeah, I don't think that, like, study after study is confirming the sort of negative effects that it, like, seeing too much YouTube or whatever, like, I'm not even talking about social media where it gets very intense because that person. So yeah,
And it's a
that's
two-way
generally.
interacting, right?
Yeah,
Like for
yeah,
children, I think that stage all the way until probably they're 10 years old, it's more like passive consumption, like you mentioned,
yeah,
through YouTube or
yeah,
videos and things like that. They're not
yeah,
interacting, but they're just
yeah,
consuming
yeah,
content, which I agree. Like even I've been researching, and it does affect attention. It does have some
yeah,
impact on their emotions and behavior and whatnot. And even like Jonathan Haidt in the book The Anxious Generation does point to a lot of conclusive research about like plummeting mental health in both,
yeah,
young teens, boys and girls,
yeah,
who had smartphones and access to
yeah,
social media like before 10 years of age.
yeah,
So again, like going back to the whole, there's a structural problem, because nobody wants to regulate or talk about regulating
yeah,
the
yeah,
digital spaces, right?
yeah,
Because you can make money out of it. Um,
yeah,
but that's interesting because you are into technology yourself. Like you are an AI expert and innovator in the Silicon Valley. So how do you tie those two worlds?
yeah. I think so. Like I mean, how do I put it? I of course believe in like the power of technology of also opening up new worlds, new ideas. That's how I find. I mean, I wasn't born in Silicon Valley. Like I was back in India, but yeah, internet was like, I think, one of the best things that happened to my life. I got exposed to so many ideas. I actually dreamt big. Yeah, because I had the internet and I could see, like, so many good stories. And so that's why, like, I am a technology optimist, I think, in the long term. So that's where I align my life's work with. And there are like I've said this in many, like, even public interviews when I talk on, like, bigger media platforms. Like, I think Coursera was one of the best things that exists on the internet, or even Wikipedia. I love Wikipedia, honestly. Like, it has taught me so much about the world. So there are these, or Google Maps for that matter. I think Google Maps should be like it has. I've been in strange cities as a, like, as a woman, and I could, like, get home because I knew that, yeah, okay, at least in Google Maps I know what's happening. Like, it's not a complete black box. And so I really believe in the power of those technologies. I just think that it's this small corner of like social media, and of course, I mean, there's dark web. There's also a very problematic like Reddit, all of that stuff. It's just that, yeah, I think as long as, in terms of raising a child, I think as long as we equip children with the right framework to, you know, deal, like to handle internet, same with I think they will do wonders with AI. Because I mean, yeah, I learned a lot from like Coursera, Wikipedia over the years. You know, there was so much, like AI is a field which, you know, there's so much happening. It's always on the cutting edge. So again, like, you know, I know the whole world is right now like, oh, GPT, and you know, things are changing every 6 months. But that's kind of been my life for years now. Like I'm very accustomed to, like, you know, my what I built last year being obsolete because better technology has come out. So that's kind of how I live my life every day. But at the same time, I think as long as you have a good mental framework, you have good psychological pillars, I think you can. I still believe like GPT can be amazing for kids because, like, imagine like you're a smart kid, you know how to read, and now you don't have to put up with a boring teacher. Like you can ask GPT to pull up a lesson plan. Like that's such a beautiful thing. I mean, I would love for you know, poor people, poor children, and in fact, for that matter, anybody in the world to have that capability, and AI has that power. So I do believe in that. Um, that it can do wonders. It has done for me in my life. Yeah, but I just knew, like, I had the right frameworks or the right upbringing, I guess, that, you know, I knew what to avoid on the internet. And that's what I'm seeing, that as long as, I mean, it's like anything. If you go travel, right, like you can, yes, you can get mugged, or like it's like traveling, you're traveling the world. You, as long as you have good common sense and, you know, you have some resources, you'll have a good time traveling. I think of it that way a little bit. So yeah, I think
So,
GPT. Sorry, yeah, go on.
no. I mean, you can continue as well, but like, if this may help, like, because I want to um, talk a bit about those mental frameworks that you're talking about, and also talk about it alongside upskilling parents, right? Like a lot of times, parents themselves are either too focused on the technology they have in hand that, like, you know, we're mindlessly scrolling ourselves because we are reliant on technology so much. Like I have to
Yeah.
catch myself from scrolling in
Yeah.
front of my daughter several
Yeah.
times because I'm like,
Yeah.
she's looking at me, she's observing me. So what kind of you know, if you have any advice or strategies to share with parents who are listening out there, strategies do you use day to day, or, you know, tools that parents should use for themselves to upskill themselves in the space of technology, A, and B, introduce their own children safely to these kinds of tech, be it social media, be it even interacting day to day with things like, you know, Alexas and Siris.
I think there are frameworks for, of course, doom scrolling, like, which I think is like, you know, set time limits. Use the screen time feature like heavily. I do that a lot. And I mean, it's like, it's so hard even as fully formed adults to, you know, catch yourself. Like, we have to keep reminding. It's like, that's why the analogy that keeps coming to my mind is of smoking. It's like, you know, you have to treat it like that. Like, you have to get off the addiction and be like, you know, there's just, yeah. So that's for social media. I think for other frameworks, I do think that, like for GPT, or so there was actually a decade ago, there was this education experiment which was done in the Middle East, like Israel and stuff, where they would share an event that happened from two perspectives in parallel. So like it would load, or like it would be shown in parallel to the kids. And so what that was, and I also, when I was growing up, I had some of that, and like one year in school where that was, I was also exposed to a lot of things like that, like, you know, our colonial history, like, you know, this is how the colonialists looked at what they were doing, and this is how we looked at what they were doing. So there was this multi-perspective angle which was heavily emphasized. And I think that is the strategy I like to use even when I'm using AI, which is like, question, first of all, like, you know, check sources, obviously. I mean, that's obvious. Like, why is it saying what it is saying? And like always try to do a counter, get in the mindset of like debating, because if the debate holds up, I think that even as teaching that to a child encourages them to think about what they are being shown or what they are being fed. And that, first of all, that was always, I think that would work, that would have been useful even in the without GPT, like, in the world of like Netflix or like so many documentaries which can like convince you pretty much of anything. Like there were TV shows which would do that. So I think, yeah, for me, that sort of mindset is something that I want to inculcate. And I try to like always, even myself, when I'm consuming stuff on the internet, I'm like, okay, what's the counterpoint to this, right? Like, and so that helps me, like, trying to understand, like, okay, what am I reading too biased of an opinion? So yeah, I would like, the way I think about it is to use it as an opportunity to like encourage holistic thinking. Yeah, it sounds a little
No, it's a
yeah,
good macro model, right? To look at, like, question
yeah,
things, always look at it from like the multi-perspective angle that you were talking about. This is really helpful because very recently, I think Sam Altman himself, when he was interviewed for a podcast, said that, one of the surprising things I found was people believe or trust ChatGPT too much. He himself was surprised that people
yeah,
trust, and I
yeah,
think that's the thing with I think humans in general. We are
yeah,
compliant. We love things that can do the thinking on our behalf, and make our lives easier, right? So we have to
yeah,
like teach our children at the when they're being formed that you need to question, you need to ask, you need to be curious.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's, and I also feel like, I mean, I also, whenever I'm in these situations, I like to go back to history. It's like, when TV came out, I think people had the same sort of fear, and also like, we're gonna get addicted to it and it's gonna like convince us to do something. And I think to a large extent, it did do that. But it's the same kind of situation wherein again it's like you have this technology that can like say things very convincingly and in like a very scalable way, portable way. So I think it's going to have the same effect. So it's important. Yeah, I think it will come down to like how psychologically strong you are as a person. Do you have the right sort of, yeah, like questioning framework? It's almost a test for that. Yeah, and I do think that from like history, yes, many people will fail, and so like all the news articles will not be good, but at an individual level, I don't think that like that has to be the case. I mean, yeah, you can. I mean, myself, I remember breastfeeding was like a very difficult journey for me. So I was very vulnerable and I would like, frantically search the internet all the time. It was like, trying to find answers. I was like, this cannot be real, or I can't be the exception, like because there's this one story, a very nice neat story about breastfeeding that you hear on the internet, which is like, it's all easy. It's all like you
It's
you you will want
natural.
to feed. Yeah, it's natural, it's like the way things should be. And so in fact, there's this whole like, you will feel oxytocin, like there's like very legit sounding scientific story around it as well. And of course it's not like that in real life. It's super messy. I feel that it's like that probably for like 0.01% of the women, and for like everybody else it's just like a hot mess. And I used to like frantically, go on the internet and like read so many things. And yeah, I think I realized over time, even as an adult, like it took me a few days to like understand that internet is just a reflection of like the real world. And actually I started going into deep into Reddit threads, as like that's like,
That's got
and
to
I
save you.
found so many, yeah, and like I found so many stories of moms who did say that it was like a very difficult experience for them, and that did help me. And I was, but the large part of the internet does talk about this very nice fairy tale picture of breastfeeding and like how, and the only discourse is about what you should do as a mom. It never talks about what should be done for you as a mom to be able to breastfeed, to feel supported, and be like, live your life, live your daily life comfortably while breastfeeding. It's always about what you should be doing, and are you doing enough as a mom? Largely, there is some. I mean, it's not like 100%. It's like, I think it's 90-10. And so yeah. I was like, okay, I mean, as an adult, I was like, fine. I guess that's what it is. So it didn't like. So I had to I also had to understand that internet has only one perspective encoded, pretty much in out there, and I'm not going to find uh, what I'm looking for on the internet, basically, or at least not easily. And yeah, so even personally, like as an adult, I had to have that journey of like getting over it. But yeah.
So it leads me, like, I want to pivot and talk a bit about like the work you're doing now with Kashikoi, right? But this might sound heavy and loaded because you just ended on that, like the internet gives you only that one perspective, um, which which gives me ideas about bias and which leads me to thinking about AI and machine learning, right? Like you're encoding human bias. You see human bias encoded structurally, systematically all around us, and you're encoding that same possible bias into machine learning, which would therefore make AI systems also biased in a certain way, right? So
Yeah.
uh, maybe talk to us about that while you're also telling us all the exciting things you're doing at Kashikoi, right? Like, what is Kashikoi? What are you aiming to achieve with that and your journey with Y Combinator?
Yeah. So this, I am like this, the product idea that I'm building is heavily rooted in this idea, and it's to empower people to basically interview the AI that they are using, so that they actually uncover these biases quicker than they can type. So it's like you can like basically I'm building a simulation engine which interviews AI on people's behalf, and even before you use an agent or an LLM, it will basically interview that agent or LLM based on your preferences or your worldview, and tell you that it's actually not, it's
The
biased in
right.
this way, or it's giving or it's like giving wrong information. So it's like, if I just give it breastfeeding, it will actually ask like 100 questions around breastfeeding to an LLM, like like over an hour, and then verify them and tell you back like, okay, this is overall what this model thinks about. Like, I've asked it 100 different angles of breastfeeding, and this is what it gave back. And so this is the situation with this LLM. Do you still want to use it? That's literally, I mean, I'm not kidding. It's this product, I feel so strongly for it, is because it's rooted in my experience. I'm like, and that's why I was so excited when you asked me to talk about this, because yeah, I want Arth to have this in his pocket on his phone, be like, okay, I want to learn about drugs, I want to learn about smoking, and want to I want him or all of us to have a tool where you can just input this topic. We basically conduct a full, like, extensive interview. It's like, doing a background check on an LLM, or a person that you're gonna have or hire and talk to daily in your life. Like, we do that, right? When we interview people,
Yeah,
we try to find out, we run background checks, reference checks,
yeah.
and this system is going to do that without you
This
having to
is
like manually type. Yeah, so yeah.
mind blowing, and this is so exciting. No, tell me more. I don't want to interrupt you because this is exactly what we need. Like, goes back to that topic, the conversation we're having about trust, and the conversation we've been talking about bias, right, in technology, and
Yeah.
the fact that we're so over trusting with technology these days. We need to have tools at our disposal that are able to verify on our behalf. But I
Yeah.
see you nodding, so go ahead. Tell me more.
No, I think I also want to talk about, there's this idea that, if you start thinking about bias correction, you're not doing the most cutting edge technology, or at least like in Silicon Valley, that's a thing, by the way. I feel. And I actually am I have the exact contrarian view in that I feel that because when you focus on putting in, and technology can enable it, like technology actually has the capability to make things holistic for real. I mean, human beings probably don't. Technology, because of the amount of information that it can process in the background, it can actually alleviate biases. It's just that people don't care enough. And I think good, well designed technology actually does that. It does enable people. It does make them, it does make them feel empowered or like dream bigger or think about ideas. If they have an idea, it basically enables them to think even more on that idea, or make them smarter or better in that direction. So I think that, to me, that's a mark of a good, well designed product. So I am like working right at the cutting edge of like reinforcement learning. I'm bringing all of those algorithms into a product, and I hope to make it very easy for completely non-technical people to actually use this to their advantage. That is, so it's, I'm not even like coming at this from like, hey, I want things to be more inclusive, or like, of course I want that. I obviously want the world to become a better place to be, whatever,
Yeah.
cliched, but I don't think that's, I don't even have to strive for that. Honestly, I have to strive for making good technology. And I think that's a good outcome of making things that are well designed. I've been doing this for a very long time. I like, as
Yeah.
like, I've been working in reinforcement learning long before it was school. Like, nobody even knew the things that I was doing in grad school. Like, only NSF or DARPA would like fund these things at that time.
Explain reinforced learning for non-technical people. What is reinforced learning?
Yeah, so reinforcement learning is basically um, having teaching a system to take certain actions uh, and in an environment in a reward signal. So you can literally think of it as we are all agents in society, and there are certain incentives that we all come up with because of law, economics, etc., and that makes us act in certain ways. Like, somebody, basically it's like the, yeah, that's the short. So like
That's
reinforcement learning has technical terms for it, like, policy. Like, every agent, for example, in reinforcement learning has a policy. Policy is literally like, for human beings, you can call it your philosophy or your, way of operating in life. Like, some people think that the way to win in life is to like have the best education. Somebody else might think it's to like pull off a heist, bank heist. You know, different people
yeah.
have different policies in life. So it's reinforcement learning is a technical sort of uh, distillation of that. Yeah.
So
So
you've
yeah,
been
I
into
think.
this for a while. You were saying that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for a while. I've obviously like trained robotics agents, dealt with a lot of RL algorithms a long time ago, and I've like, shipped so much ML by now. I know how these things break. So I'm like, the best way is, and we are finally at that point. I mean, we are truly living through a AI revolution, like. And I think I want to enable people to sort of also use it to sort of how do I put it, like, make sure that these technologies are aligned with your policy, sort of your internal policy. That's what I'm trying to do, basically help people translate their internal sort of background, like framework, or reference check, or whatever it is that you sort of think like something's off, or like this is not how I would do it. Is this agent aligned with my style of thinking, my way of working? So what we are building in our product is allowing people to translate that into an algorithm so that they can actually answer this question, instead of like manually trying to like punch your
Figure
prompts
it
into
out.
LLM, or asking some weird questions, and then trying to, because that's not going to work. LLMs are really smart. AI is very smart. It's better to like harness that energy instead of like trying to manually fight it. Yeah.
So in a way, you are laying the foundation for like an ethical framework, so to speak, in the creation of a good AI agent. Would that be right to say?
I think I would, the way I put it is, I mean, I would like to say yes to that. But when I look at other people who use the word ethics and all that, like, it kind of, I'm like, I think it should be self-evident, so I don't like say
It's
using that. I
ethical.
think it's being like, yeah. I think the way I think about it is it allows somebody who does not have to care about like what reinforcement learning is, all of that, but you can give your sense of alignment or intelligence or preferences of like how you would want to interact with AI, or rather even with another person. It's like, we become friends with some people because of a reason, because there's a certain fundamental alignment somewhere. And so you can encode that in an algorithm using our product, and then that can like interact with LLMs and sort of tell you that, flag red, show like surface red flags faster. Uh, yeah, if like basically for example, using our product, like, there are lots of unfortunate incidents which have already happened with AI. People have, sort of become obsessed with them, psychologically affected with them. I think using our product as an in between before, with would help people avoid doing that at a
So,
personal
so
level. Of course, there are many business applications to what I'm building, so that 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 exists. I mean, yeah, that is already like that is gonna happen anyway. Like I am very inspired to build what I'm building because of this idea that we need to empower everybody to be able to define their own idea of intelligence, of ethics, of responsibility, of because that's how we make friends. That's how we choose the people we want to spend time with in life. We should be able to do that with AI as well. And that there needs to be like a viable product that can help people do that. And that's what I'm building.
that's really very well put. We definitely need more support systems in place in order to be able to even interact with AI at the level that people are already like. It's like leaving a loose
Exactly.
horse, right? With ChatGPT,
Yeah,
you've just
yeah,
left it loose, and people
yeah.
are just doing whatever randomly. But I want to also talk about like the space you are in right now with Y Combinator and the kind of people you're meeting. Do you feel that kind of support for your idea, especially as a woman in technology? Um, how is that environment? Is it like supportive, or is it pushing you towards okay thinking from a business perspective only, or like can this make money right now, or things like that?
I mean, I like honestly, I mean, I'm part of a capitalist system, so
I know
I
it's
have to deal with that. Yeah, I think that's the quick answer to that question. Like, yeah, you have. Unfortunately, the way incentives in society are set up, you can't be like, I'm just gonna do something ethical for the sake of being ethical, like, or I'm
that's
gonna do
true.
some. Yeah, like it's just. So I have to. I'm part of a game. There are rules to this game, and I have to play it accordingly. To be in a position to make better rules for the game, right? It's just unfortunate, but we are in that situation. The structurally, as a parent, as a mom, yeah, I think there are these fundamental problems that we just don't have in our structure, like the fact that parental labor does not count in GDP. There's like very little fundamental research going in the true, like, even for men, I think the way, for example, at least a large part of dads, the way they're participating in raising children, I don't think that has happened for a while in
Previously.
so yeah, so even so nobody is studying, like even they don't have the playbooks. I've seen a lot of times, like, my generation dads, our generation dads trying to like share their experiences like, back in our families, but there's no like playbook. There's nothing they can rely on, right? Because the previous generation was not that involved in raising, or they they were involved in very different ways, so there's no playbook even for them. So I think that's the gap. Like we're all just figuring it out. And I think those are the structural gaps that need to be fixed by like people just having sharing more of their stories, sharing more of the pain. After becoming a parent, now I sometimes listen to some relationship stories, right, from the past, and I now am able to see them in a new light. Like, you know, it makes sense to me why people were not together or they were together. It's and like, you know,
It's a
the
hard
whole
job.
yeah, it's like raising a child without, you know, without the right sort of perspective, or the right, even just, you know, wrong words said at the wrong time, or like wrong words put into our head whilst another person was like, you know, not in their best physical or mental state. Like those things can really affect, and yeah, people just don't have the scaffolding or like the guidelines, you know, what you should say to a mom when she's in postpartum, like all of that. Like there's just so much missing. That's those are the things that make it hard being.
One thing I love to do with my guests before we end any conversation is try to look at things from a hopeful perspective. So we end on a nice positive note too, right? So I want to understand, where do you think where all of this technology is headed? Uh, what would the future generations, you know, look like? Like what kind of a world are they growing up in? And tell us what you hope for your son's generation as well.
Yeah, I think as I said before, if you have the right mental framework, the world is your oyster. I am very excited about the fact that possibly, and like the next generation, like my son's generation or our children's generation, will be able to have multiple careers in their lifetimes. Like they could actually pursue music for 10 years, then engineering for 10 years, then, you know, something painting for 10 years. That probably is possible because the rate of learning should be so supercharged with AI. And like, you know, you don't have to go through formal programs, you don't have to go through, you know, like, and you don't have to have a like go through degree and, you know, all that formal like stuff, which is somewhat artificial given, you know, how individual we all are in terms of our preferences, phases, state of mind, state of economics. Like we go through so much in life and we have like these very set processes. Imagine if that was no longer needed, that was not the case. You could actually learn anything that you were truly interested and become a master at it in a few years, because your learning is so customized to where you are in terms of your mental state. And because of that, you can have multiple careers, and you can do like, you know, really, you can actually sort of realize your big dreams, not in one field, but like in multiple fields. I do think that that's the future we are going to, and I feel very excited. I mean, sometimes I'm like, I wish I was born after AI had like settled down and I could actually do this. You know, follow, like pursue multiple, like, you know, careers. I mean, I've of course been in AI/ML for a very long time, but I would personally love to do philosophy. I would love to like, you know, pursue writing for 10 years and become like a really publish a lot of things. So there are lots of things that I also wanted. Yeah. So I'm like, you know, I want to live in that world where, you know, you have a thought partner in your pocket and you can learn, like, you know, customize your learning to exactly how you want to do it. If you're a visual learner, then you can, you know, constantly produce like videos to learn what you want. If you're like a, yeah, like, you know, you can basically customize information processing exactly the way it suits you as a person. And I think that's an amazing future that I really look forward to for our children.
I think that's a great advertisement. Like the way you just painted the picture for us is so, and I think this is what we need, right? To hear, rather than constantly being bombarded or being told that all
Yeah.
AI is bad, all technology is bad, or being
Yeah.
told that they're going to take over our lives. No, humans have survived and evolved billions and billions
Yeah.
of years over billions of problems that existed on this earth, right? So I think that's a very powerful and hopeful message for our listeners. One last thing, definitely, I want to ask you, Aksha, is one parenting and one tech rule you live by at home. Anything short and memorable that you want to stay with our listeners?
That's an interesting one. Okay, so one parenting rule I live by is that if I have a doubt and if I start getting confused once I've like read enough about it, I completely stop and I'm like, let's do what makes sense for me. So that's a rule that I think, like, forget all convention, forget what worked, what is supposed to be done. No, follow what's comfortable for your child and your partner and you, what works for you. Like, anyway, I mean, I know you wanted something short and sweet, but just to give more
I think that makes
context, like,
sense.
yeah, it's like, yeah, I mean, people, there's this whole thing like, don't send them to daycare, sitter has this impact. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on being said on the
Yeah.
internet, or like, moms bounce back. This is the amount of time in which you should, like, bounce back, whatever that crap means. So yeah, I'm like, I'm like, now I have very, not that I had a lot of respect for convention, but I think I have even less for it. So I think, yeah, that's the parenting rule. Yeah, tech rule, very simple. I use screen limit feature heavily, and I would suggest everyone just, there's really no way to deal with doom scrolling other than just irrationally, like, that's it, I'm done for the day. Like, it's 20 minutes, my phone has told me time limit, done. Like, honestly, that's like, just pull the Occam's razor on, like, social media. Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, Aksha. Those were really wonderful rules that you shared with our listeners. This was such a delightful, wholesome, and lovely conversation from one mom to another mom. I hope our listeners take value not just from the parenting questions that we spoke about, but also from the hopeful picture you've painted for the future generations who are going to be growing in a world of technology.
Yeah.
It's been a lovely conversation. So thank you again.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank you as well. As you said, it's from one mom to another. You are the one who is creating space for people to have such amazing conversations. So kudos to you. Really, you are filling that gap that I was talking about, honestly.
Big shoes to fill. I'm just trying to have conversations and hopefully create a community around this, but it's one conversation at a time.
Yeah.